What's up team, Rhett here, and in today's video we're going to be discussing how to grow your own business and start making money doing what you love in 2022. Now, the entire reason why I actually wanted to create this video for you today is over the past week I've been really preparing for my upcoming mastermind this weekend that I'm running for my students in Gentleman's Mastery, and I've been really assessing where the entire group is as a collective. And as I've been reflecting on where everyone is at, it's really interesting to see that most of my students are actually going through a major transition phase in both their life and their business. And what do I mean by that? Well, they're going through a transition of actually like breaking down the old and starting something new in both their life and business. And in terms of my students, this looks like there's a range of examples of what they're actually going through at the moment. We've got many guys who have already been running really successful companies, you know, making anywhere between like 20K to 100K per month, and they're actually recalibrating and realigning and shutting down businesses that they're no longer aligned with, where they're not enjoying themselves and where they're not creating something that they truly love in the marketplace. And they're finding themselves a little bit burnt out from an old business model that really resonated with them a couple of years ago, and they're wanting to create a new business that is more aligned with their core essence of what they actually love doing, so they can really enjoy life more. Likewise, we've got a lot of other guys that are more so an entrepreneur, where they're working as like really high quality sales reps or marketing agents inside other companies, where they're in control of their finances, but they're wanting to now step out on their own and create their own company to really be in total control of the type of people they're helping, what type of products they're creating, and have the flexibility and the freedom to create what they desire, right? And then on the other side, we've also got guys who are working like 9-to-5 jobs, who have been in that type of career and working in 9-to-5 for quite a while, and they're now really wanting to just like unleash and step out of their comfort zone and step into the unknown and create a new business for themselves as well. So in assessing my students, I really thought that, like, you know, you guys who watch me here on YouTube or wherever you're watching, I really felt like there'd be many of you, and even if it's just one person who resonates with this message, then I really feel like I've done my job and have served you well. So I wanted to talk you through this graph here, and the reason why I wanted to firstly explain this when it comes to starting your own business or realigning yourself to doing what you love and, you know, being able to create from the heart as opposed to just grinding away doing something you hate as a means to an end. And that means to an end is like a paycheck at the end of the day, right? We're with the group and our mastermind, we're really helping everyone return to their core essence, to start expressing and creating from the heart and getting in the flow of life. And it's a really hard transition to actually make. And when you're making this transition, it's really making the transition from kind of providing what other people are demanding of you and returning inwardly and, you know, asking yourself the question, what is it that I want to create in the world? What is it that I want to create from within that makes me come alive, that makes me feel passionate about what I do, that makes me feel really connected to my clients, my students, and even my peers, where I'm in the flow of life and I'm really just expressing my core essence on a day-to-day basis. That's a huge paradigm shift. It's a huge shift in energy as well when you're creating from that place, because when you're doing that, the energy of the universe and life just is flowing through you, compared to when you're doing something that you feel like you have to do. That is where you get really restricted and bound up, and you get in your head where you're just kind of like fighting against the grain and fighting through life. So when we're really wanting to make this transition in whatever industry you're personally in, when you're wanting to go from, say, a consumer to a creator, or start creating something that's more aligned with your true innate self, then this graph here is a great one to reflect on and look at, especially as we're heading into 2022. So firstly, before we get into this training, I do want to just preface that this video isn't really a tactical, here's the step-by-step process of starting a business. What we're doing here in this video is really looking at the bigger picture that can really help you reset your worldview and paradigm in how you view yourself, how you view the world, and how you view the marketplace, which is going to set the frame and the mental construct and paradigm for you to actually make this transition for yourself. Because, you know, whenever you're trying to create something new in life, if you're trying to do so from your old limited paradigms of yourself, the world, and the marketplace, your old limiting beliefs and stories that you keep telling yourself, which has kept you where you are, the more you hold on to those things, then you're actually blocking yourself from creating what you want in your life. So what I'm doing here is helping you build a new mental worldview and a new paradigm of how you look at everything. So it's going to free up the energy and give you the clarity required to then get into things like the strategy and the tactics of building your business and really aligning yourself to doing what you love and being able to make money from that as well, moving forward. So here today, we're going to start with the paradigm, and then in videos to come, I will absolutely get into more strategies and tactics and things like that too. So here, if you guys have read the book, Crossing the Chasm, or the Chasm, however you want to say that, then this model or graph, this mental model is taken from that. However, what I'm going to do today is provide a fresh approach of how to look at this specific mental model when we're talking about business and creating what you want to in life. So on the far left here, I'm just going to go over the key categories of this model, and then I'm going to get into the explanation of how it applies to you in your life at the moment. So here on the far left-hand side, the very few in the world, you've got the innovators. Now, these people are typically your leaders in the world. They're your inventors, your artists, even like philosophers, and they're people who are on the pathway to mastering their craft or mastering the specific field of their expertise. They're devoted to that path, right? Then over here beside them, a little bit more of the population, we've got the visionaries. And these also make up the leaders of the world, but these are the early adopters. So here on the left, we've got the people who are innovating and creating something unique in the world. The visionaries are typically people who can see that vision, see what the innovators are creating, and they can then unite and join forces with an innovator to then propel that vision forward, or whatever it is that they're creating over here. They can actually start to accelerate that mission or that creation and then start to help this mission, this project, this product cross the chasm and sell it to the early majority, which then typically cascades onto the late majority of those in the world. Now, when we're looking at like the late majority and the skeptics, I position these people as consumers in the world. These are the people who are always consuming content, products, courses, other people's ideas, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with consuming. However, it's all about balancing yourself out, right? And the problem with making a big transition in your life where you're leaving your old life or your old job, the thing that you had previously created for yourself, and your current situation, when you leave that and you're wanting to be bold and step into the unknown and create something new, there's a really weird gap in the middle of doing so where when you're wanting to make this transition, it's full of uncertainty where you don't know what you don't know. And that void can often be filled up with consumption, hardcore consumption, where you can find yourself, even if you've been a good creator and an innovative creator in the past, when you're getting into something new, you typically find yourself with sometimes a bit of space and time on your hands. And I know that a lot of people in what we're currently going through over the past 2 years, this will absolutely apply to many of you, where you find yourself with a bit more time on your hands, and then you can start to leak into becoming a consumer of everything a little bit too much, because being a consumer is easy in life, right? It's very comfortable. You don't have to really do much. You just sit there on passive mode, consuming other people's content, ideas, courses, and products and such. But what that can do, it can actually begin to paralyze you, where with too much consumption on Instagram, YouTube, porn for fuck's sake, alcohol, weed, all these other things that kind of drag your energy down, when we're doing too much of that, we're taking up all the space that is required for creating something new and innovating in the world. And really, the quality of our creation comes down to our ability to take our consciousness and our focus and focus it on a point of attention to then create and innovate. But you need a lot of space for that. And when we're putting all of our attention on what everyone else is doing, what everyone else thinks, and all of these other social media apps and these places of consumption, we're now neglecting ourselves of our core raw energy required to like build momentum and, as I said, build something new, create something new. So now, when we look at the far end of the spectrum, we've got the skeptics, right? Who are always typically negative, they're pessimistic, and they're always in like this negative couch potato state where they're scrolling on Instagram and they're jumping into other people's accounts and criticizing everyone else of what they're doing when they've never created a thing in their entire life, which is quite ironic. But the problem with creating something new is that when we're creating something new over here and stepping into a creator role, right? It requires courage. It requires us to like step out of our comfort zone and into something new and to really put ourselves out there. And sometimes when we're doing that for the first time, it's really uncomfortable. AKA, if you're an entrepreneur, you know the feeling, right? There's a lot of friction that comes up and there's a lot of fear and underlying emotions that can bottle up when you start to put yourself out there at scale even. Now, the problem with this, when you're getting into business, entrepreneurship, when you're wanting to, whatever it is, start a YouTube channel, create a product, invent something, there's a lot of uncertainty. And typically what we try to do is to mask our uncertainty for what we're doing, because a lot of the time when you're an entrepreneur and you're innovating, you don't fucking know whether it's going to work out, right? But the only thing you have is your self-belief in you. That's it. But what we can tend to do and fall back on is, in this phase of creation, we try to get validation from consumers over here, which is the worst possible thing you can do, because when we're building something new in life, we're typically surrounded, right, with our social circle of friends, of family that we've built up, and this social network that we've built up, even followers online that we've built up over time, that was around our former self, okay? And typically, a lot of those people that we've built ourselves up around are going to be consumers. They don't know what it means to create. They have no idea what that paradigm even looks like. Yet, they don't even have the courage to step outside of their consumer mentality and step into a creator role where they're putting their self on the line, where they're putting their reputation for everyone on the line for everyone else to like see and criticize. So when we're uncertain with ourselves, we can tend to look to the early majority, the late majority, and even start listening to the skeptics about the validity of what we're creating ourselves. And when you look to these people to validate your idea early on, you are so fucked, because they are going to shit on your confidence like nothing else. And what you need when you're creating something new is to start surrounding yourself with visionaries and innovators, okay? Now, I want to share a story of how you can, if you're wanting to create something new, there's typically two paths that I really see that you can take when you're wanting to create something new in the marketplace. Now, path number one is, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a consumer, okay? I've been here. I was here for a large part of my life. I was an early majority where I saw what the visionaries and the innovators were doing, and I was like following a lot of their stuff online, right? Buying a lot of courses, reading a lot of books, and consuming to learn, right? And you have to go through this phase at some point, because there's no other way. You don't know what you don't know, and you have to start learning, okay? Before you can actually create. But once you've done and gone through your phase of initial learning, then you can either take two paths. One is to take the path of the visionary. Now, this is a path that I took early in my career, where I was back in Melbourne, Australia. I was actually really working hard to build my own online health and fitness business. I was also working in a gym at the time, so I was working as an employee, but then I was starting my own online fitness business and really trying to build momentum there. And it got up, it was relatively quote unquote successful, so to speak, but I was grinding my fucking face off, and I wasn't able to get leverage because I didn't have the required skill sets and wisdom in business to execute at a high leveraged level, okay? Where I was able to produce results, but they were more linear. They weren't exponential. And me, in that phase in my life, I was kind of in between a visionary or innovator, where I was just creating something from my heart because I really wanted to do it. but I didn't have the skill sets to really scale that thing. So then I reflected upon my next move in life. I was like, all right, what am I going to do? Am I either going to continue to grow this business, or could I take an alternate path where I can step into a visionary role, right? And bolt myself onto another company or entrepreneur who's at the very top of the market doing amazing things, who already has the skill set and the knowledge required that I could learn directly from if I were to implant myself within the company and join them at the hip to absorb all their wisdom that they developed over many years, because they already had a head start in business compared to me. And then I could use and absorb all that information and develop skill sets while absorbing all that information, and really get in the trenches and execute on a practical level that gave me experience in the industry, that then gave me the skill sets required and the knowledge required to then eventually become an innovator where I'm my own entrepreneur. So this visionary path, I took what I did when I was living in Australia, doing my fitness business. I decided to invest in consulting.com and learn all about their methodologies, their programs, and went through all their programs and products. But then I wanted to take the next step, and that's when I actually reached out to Sam Ovens to join him in consulting.com. And I just did it in a strategic enough way where he agreed. And then I flew over to New York and started working with him as his performance coach, and actually started living with him in his apartment in New York, which gave me a huge accelerated my learning and development at that point, because I was absorbing so much information, and I was also in the trenches doing a lot of work within the company that gave me basically eyeballs in behind the company, behind the scenes, to see how everything works at a much more intimate level, where I'm in person and working with them and gaining all of this experience over many years I worked with them for. And that allowed me to then step out and create my own thing. And now I was creating something new and creating my own thing with leverage, because now I had far greater wisdom, I had far greater knowledge and skill sets that allowed me to create something way more valuable in the marketplace. Because remember, when you're getting started in business, no matter what level you're at, remember that the market's going to pay you for the value that you can deliver for them, okay? Not the value that you think you're worth. So for me, when I was getting started in health and fitness, yeah, I was really valuable from a nutrition and fitness standpoint, but I didn't have experience of how the world worked. I had a limited knowledge base of business, so I was kind of strapped, because I was great at what I was doing, nutrition and fitness, but I didn't have the bandwidth or the ability to continue to scale that in the long term. And I was really stuck, because I also had no leadership ability, no ability, or no understanding of what it took to build a team and scale that operation. So yes, you can take the path of starting your own thing from scratch and just figuring it out as you go. But I wanted to give you the option in 2022. If you're stuck, if you're wanting to create something new for yourself, remember, you don't necessarily have to be the founder or the creator of something. You can find a company that you're really aligned with, that you believe in terms of what their vision and mission and values are in the marketplace and where they're headed. And you can look at and I encourage you, if you're in that position where you want to actually join forces with another company, then write down a list of the top 30 entrepreneurs or companies in an industry that you see yourself getting into in the future, and reach out to them. And actually, potentially, if it's aligned with you, you've got to discern what feels right for you, right? But if it's aligned with you, reach out to them, be bold, take action, and see what happens, because you never know. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people that you want to work with or partner with are just 1 or 2 connections away from you. So be bold, be willing to take a chance on yourself and back yourself and believe yourself. And then just once you're selling yourself, just have total belief that you can figure out anything required to be of value within a company. So my path, once I did that myself and started working as Sam's performance coach, I was then all right, what's the next step? How can I add more value to consulting.com so I can increase my own earning potential and capacity? And for me, that was then getting in and managing all of Sam's social media. So I was all right, nailed that, check. Then the next step was mastering sales. So then I entrenched myself selling high ticket products for Sam at Consulting. And, you know, that was a really great move for me because now I had like a health and fitness background, right? Then I got into the art of like performance coaching. So really was mastering what it takes to perform and produce at a high level and working with one of the top entrepreneurs in the space in doing so. Then I transitioned and started working in sales as well, in complementary to what I was already doing for the company. So then I was able to continue to develop more and more skill sets and spend a lot of time like mastering that. But in my time in sales, I was then able to take more than a few thousand like sales calls for consulting.com and sell in excess of like 3 million per year and speak with thousands of entrepreneurs, which gave me so much fucking knowledge in regards to like all of the problems that everyone's facing in the entire market, because I was speaking with like 8 to 10 of them every single day for many years, and all of that knowledge was just transferring through to me, where it became very intuitive over time, where, you know, if I had spent instead all that time just trying to grow my own business, where I was generating maybe like 1 or 2 sales calls a week, then I would be really limited in what I'm able to produce because I didn't have the proximity to my potential clients, right? So in sales, I was able to learn so much from all the conversations I was having. And yes, that was like a really difficult time because I was working so hard at it, but it gave me such a leg up when it came to like time to create my own thing, because I had so much wisdom in regards to like the problems that the market faces, the pain points that they're all experiencing, and what they actually truly desire at a subconscious level. Not what they tell you, but what they are actually going through subconsciously, which ultimately led to me creating unitedmind.com and building Gentleman's Mastery, which is my mastermind, as my first product that I launched into the marketplace. And we're going great in terms of like growing that at the moment. So then once you develop a skill set, it could be in like health and fitness, it could be sales, it could be marketing, it could be leadership, it could be product development, whatever it is. I would just advise that if you're going that path, really double down and master your skill set in something that you love doing, because when you back up a skill set that you're developing over time and it's aligned with something that you love, now you're just going to blow the fuck up, because there's nothing that can stop passion and enthusiasm behind a skill set in demand in the marketplace. So once you go there, the next option, once you kind of like really are starting to, and by the way, as you're in this path, it's essential that you also double down on mastering yourself internally, really mastering your own psychology and your mindset, your own health and energy, so you're really perfecting your ability to produce at scale while you're working with and partnering with or for someone else. And also, don't be afraid of really going in and starting to master your relationships, your communication, the dynamic with maybe an intimate partner of yours, and also taking a deep dive into the spiritual side of life, understanding how the universe works, how the world works, understanding human behavior and psychology, and kind of like the energetics and the spiritual side of life, because that's going to give you so much wisdom to pull from when it comes time to innovating and creating something unique. Why? Because all of these innovators, for the most part in the industry, they're very intuitive, because when you're creating something new, right, there's no one to follow. You are the sole creator of what you're trying to build. You've got to sell yourself on it first. And you typically, when you're trying to create something amazing in the world, yes, you can approach it with from a logical standpoint, but when you're approaching something logically, you're kind of going to fall into the trap of like creating something that other people are demanding from you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you love doing it. But to really find alignment with what you want to create in life and what you want to do, it's essential that you start listening to the voice within you. And you can only do that when you really start to progress down the pathway of mastering yourself, where you're really becoming a master of your own emotions, where you're mastering the art of channeling your consciousness and your energy and focusing that into your own creation. And you can only really start doing that when you start to take a deep dive into like the spiritual aspects of life and understanding how, quantum physics and quantum energy works within the universe, and how you work as a human being, and how to amplify your energy, how to overcome traumas, how to really heal yourself emotionally from everything in your life, so you can start creating from a place of stability and having the guts and the balls and the heart and the passion to continue believing in yourself and listening to that voice within and marching to the beat of your own drum when you are innovating in the marketplace. Because the market does not want you to create something that is just imitating someone else, right? Like, typically that's like for this area here. The market wants you to create something that's unique to you, something that you're willing to like believe in so much that your enthusiasm and passion transfers onto the visionaries, right? Because your job as an entrepreneur, as a creator, as a leader, as an artist is not to ask what the market wants, right? You need to get yourself to a point of mastery where you're willing to create something from within, where you're so passionate and you come so alive in doing your thing and mastering your craft that you just can't not do it anymore. Like, you have to pursue that path. And that energy that you create from is then going to be able to sell the visionaries. Because your job as an innovator is not to sell a consumer, the early majority, the late majority, or the skeptics. It takes too much fucking energy to try and convince these people of anything, okay? Because the early majority will not start adopting anything until all the visionaries are on board, right? All the influencers as well are on board with what is going on here. So your job as an innovator is to sell and transfer your energy, enthusiasm, and passion onto the visionaries who see your vision, who see what you're doing, who see the momentum that you're building, and who see the value in what you're creating, not because you've fully created it yet, but you've got a really innovative and amazing idea. And that brings us to another point. You've also got to assess your entrepreneurial or creative type archetype, okay? Because an entrepreneur is essentially dead in the water if they can't generate amazing ideas. Because the heart of entrepreneurship is an idea. Because ideas are yet to be created, right, in physical reality. An idea works in the quantum realm. It works in the energetic realm of thought. And your job as an entrepreneur is to basically synthesize a multitude of ideas and then to bring them and anchor them into earth and create them in physical reality. And unless you're able to create or have creative ideas generated, then you're gonna really struggle to create something unique in the marketplace. Because if you can't create ideas, unique ideas, then you're just typically going to reproduce what's already been created. And there's nothing wrong with that for a certain period of time. However, I would argue that that path where you're just reproducing something and repackaging something to look good for the early majority, where you're kind of asking the market what it wants because you're a slave to them almost, when you're doing that, that is typically the paradigm of the businessman, right? Who is more concerned about profits and just like making cash instead of creating something that is so unique and true to them. Whereas I believe a true entrepreneur, an innovator, is more like an artist who just creates what they truly desire in the world. Like, think of the top musicians in the world. They don't ask their fucking audience like, hey guys, what type of song do you want me to create for you? You don't see them doing that ever. You see them jamming in their studio, just like beating around, not beating off, but beating around, because they just love what they're doing. They're hanging out, they're having fun, they're in the flow of life, they're creating from the highest energetic vibration, right? Because they're doing something that is in tune with their highest frequency, their innate love and passion for what they love doing in life. So we've got to start approaching and viewing entrepreneurship and business creation this way too. So we're removing ourselves and not really attaching ourselves to the businessman of creating what other people want all the time. Yes, people, like, there needs to be value in what you're creating, okay? But I would say that when you start to get on the pathway to mastery, because you've spent a little bit of time in the trenches, right, mastering your understanding of how everything works here and developing skill sets required, if you truly want to stand out in the world, if you truly want to create something unique, and I'm not saying, hey, I'm here, I'm standing out in the world, right? No, but that's the path that I'm personally taking. And from experience of working with thousands of entrepreneurs, this is the highest path available to us all. So I encourage you to take this leap of faith as well and really start marching to the beat of your own drum and either, number one, aligning yourself with a company or a project, a mission, a creator that is aligned with you, and help them accelerate that vision, help them accelerate what they're currently doing. And as you're doing so, gaining that experience, start mastering specific skill sets that are then going to transfer to you when it comes time for you to graduate from the master and create what is aligned with you in your life, because that's what's going to bring you total passion and fulfillment in the long term. Once you do that, transition to that of an innovator and an artist, no matter what field you're in, and start going within and thinking about, what is it that I want to create in the world? What is it that if I could spend my whole life doing this and creating this? And you don't need to attach yourself to, this is what I'm going to do for a lifetime, but just think about where you're at now. What is it that you want in your life? How do you want to spend your days? What do you want to spend your days doing? Because that's going to help you start to calibrate to what it is that you actually want to spend your time doing. Because when you spend your time doing what you love, day in, day out, you are now vibrating and oscillating at the highest energy available to you, the highest energetic vibrational frequency available to you. When you do that more often, you become a much more fulfilled person. You become much more passionate and enthusiastic about life itself. You start to fucking become alive. You start to activate more aspects of your DNA within, and you then start to accelerate your pathway to mastering yourself and your craft in what you're expressing and creating in the world. And that is what other people want. They want you to express your unique, innate talents and gifts, not to imitate what someone else has already done. Yes, we can model those who have come before us, but our duty is to model them to a certain extent. But then to truly rise above that, we need to transcend imitation and rise as a leader and an innovator in our space. Now, that's not going to be for everyone. But remember, I said you have two paths. You can either take this one, where you master a skill set and bolt yourself onto someone else who you believe in and back that up and accelerate that mission. Or you can step up as leader and really pursue mastery within in your own craft of expression. So I really hope that has helped you just sort of understand where the current market's at and understanding what it takes to truly create something unique in the world. It requires an intuitive type. It requires a mastery where you're willing to back yourself, believe in yourself, and listen to your own intuitive voice. So I hope that helps you moving into 2022. Now, if you're interested in what we have to say here, what I'm talking about, the type of underlying mission of what and the methodology in which I operate by, well, you can either continue on with me here in the YouTube videos, and I'll be producing more as we come over the coming weeks and into 2022. And if that's what you want to do for now, then hey, I'm just glad you're here and thanks for listening in, and I'll see you in the next one. But if you want to go deeper with this, if you want to be involved in a group of like-minded individuals who are committed to this path and this pursuit of creating something that is unique to them in the marketplace, and you really want to be around those with a high energetic vibration who are all getting after it, who can give you feedback and advice and help along the journey as well. And if you want additional coaching, then I invite you to apply for Gentleman's Mastery, and you can do so in the description link below. And you can also schedule in for a call with me personally to see if Gentleman's Mastery is actually the right fit for you. And if you don't want to do any of those yet, then you can also, as a third option, you can check out the demo for Gentleman's Mastery in the description below as well, where you can just learn more about what we're doing, how the actual mastermind and program works, and what we've got planned for 2022. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.